that your voice is produced so close to where the brain is. And you know, the floor of the brain, that is, if you start at this level going backwards, the bone that borders the brain and the voice is so thin to allow the voice to stimulate your brain. And that kind of stimulation enables the brain to send forth the waves of the sound to every nerve in the body. And every part of your body can respond to organized sound produced by your mouth. And then, besides your nose, moving into this direction and right below where the frontal lobe is, are empty spaces where the voice projects into and then resonates to create other waves into the part of the brain that determines your personality. And the same when it is received in the frontal lobe, it is disseminated to every nerve that is connected to the brain. And you know, the nervous network or the nervous system is a complicated and well-organized system of communication that involves information going to the ends of the body and coming back to where it originated. And therefore, we have a tract composed of ascending information and descending information, similar to Jacob's ladder. This is how amazing God has created us and has designed the brain. So if you make organized sounds, the same is received into the brain and it is distributed in any measure to the rest of the body through the nervous system. So today we shall be talking about, I want you to go a slide up. Just go to the start. Yeah, we'll be talking about mind control. And in this, I just want to bring to your attention the 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4 and 5 talks of a controversy where God intends to build a stronghold of his personality in your frontal lobe. But unfortunately, the devil also fights for the same space because he would like to control your mind. And by controlling your mind, he will be able to control the rest of the body. And that is why I found this topic very essential for us, especially in these end times, as we prepare for the final crisis. Next. So this is what we call the higher centers. It consists of the cerebral hemispheres, and there are two. There is what you can see, and there's the other side. And both, the two, are sitting on a stem, on a seat that we call the brainstem. The function of the brainstem is to maintain the vital functions, such as your digestion, your heartbeat, your lungs. So that area of the brain maintains the vital functions. But today I'll be talking about the two hemispheres and how they can be affected, because the entire body is connected to those hemispheres through a chain of communication that starts from where the hemispheres are all the way down to the rest of your body. And we shall be looking at what feeds the brain and how sensitive we need to be on the sensory organs that feed information to the brain. Next. Proverbs 4:23 tells us, keep your heart with all diligence, because out of it cometh forth the issues of life. Now, this is how important the mind should be guarded. And the other day we said there's a difference between your brain and your mind. Because anytime we mention the mind, we know we are talking about physiology and how the brain is responding to the environment. The only connection between the brain, which is hidden and covered, and the bones are fused, that there is no access to that. The only way the brain is connected to the environment is through these antennas. We call them the sensory functions. Okay? And before we go to that, somebody to create for me that paragraph, Acts of Apostles A 5:18, paragraph 2. If you can project it, I'll be glad. AA 5:18.2. Yes, .2. The only part of the brain you can see is the eye, because the eye is the extension of the brain. So this is where we say, if you have seen the eye, you have seen the brain. Okay? Because inside the brain also, just as your eye is colored and some areas are white and others are colored, so the brain also consists of areas that are white and others that are colored. So if you've seen the eye, you have seen the brain. And therefore, you should not be curious to open the brain. And any attempt to study the brain brings brings what we call ethical issues. Because to fully comprehend how the brain is, you have to study a living brain. And it's ethically wrong to open the brain. It can create a controversy. But you see, what has been studied by science is not adequate to explain this complicated organ. I want you to start, or I want us to start where it says, those who would fall a prey to Satan's devices. And somebody is going to read it for me.
Says,
Yes.
it says, those who would not fall a prey to Satan's devices must guard well the avenues of the soul. They must avoid reading, seeing, or hearing that which will suggest impure thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
The mind must not be left to dwell at random upon every subject that the enemy of soul may suggest. The heart must be faithfully sentinel, or evils without will awaken evils within, and the soul will wander in darkness. Guard the loins of your mind, Peter wrote. Be sober and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you can stop there. So in other words, we are told to guard the senses, because these are the entry points to the information that shapes your brain or your mind. And we'll be looking at those senses. You can go back to where the slides are. Now, we have 6 senses. I'm not sure whether you knew that, okay? But you could have been familiar with the sense of touch, sight, hearing, and taste, and smell, but you never knew that balance was also a part of the senses. Very important. They are all sensory, meaning they receive information to take back to the brain. Now, I have listed the senses in order of how much representation they have on the brain. Because in the brain, there is a map representing the entire body. And that representation, or the extent of surface given in your brain, corresponds to how sensitive that sense is to the brain. And so, to start with, we have the sense of touch. And this is where we have the skin. Now, if you look at yourself, everywhere you can see on your body is the skin, with the exception of the eyes. That is the eyeball. The rest is the skin. This is the largest organ in the body. It is also the heaviest organ in the body. And maybe you may not be aware about the extent of your skin. And something else you need to note about your skin, there are certain modifications on your skin to help you adapt to certain functions. For example, if you see the palm of your hand, it is not the same as the back of your hand. And the sole of your foot is not the same as the rest of the skin. You could also have noted that the skin extends to the mucous membranes, such that the inside of your lip is also part of the skin. And that is not only the only, it is not the only, it's not the boundary of the skin. It is believed that your digestive system, which is an open system, is an extension of your skin. Meaning, there is no difference between the digestive system, which is open, and your skin, which is open. So your skin extends all the way down into your digestive system and out. That's part of the skin. So that is how extensive this structure is. Now, when it comes to the brain, the part of the brain that represents the sense of touch is also big. Now, that will tell you that the information received by your skin is important, and it has a large implication on your brain. That is going by how big or how large that structure for touch is, and it's important. Something else you'd like to note is that if you look at the palms of your hand and the sole of your foot, those are areas that bear a lot of pressure. Now that means what? They are the most used areas of your body. So you use your hand to walk, and use the soles of your feet to walk. And for the mouth, because there's a lot of pressure when you are chewing food, God has placed very hard structures we call the teeth, so that they are not injured during the process of chewing. It's also a pressure area. So you can count the palm, the sole of your foot, and the mouth. They are pressure areas. Something else you need to note, that the representation of the pressure areas in the brain is also big. And that should tell you something. That anybody who studies to memorize, but does not use the hands, does not use the sole of your feet, and does not chew, may not stimulate the brain enough. So this would mean something is missing. No wonder the Adventist philosophy of education was based on the hand, the head, and the spiritual aspect. And that's important. And that's the skin. Now, when we come to the balance, it is also a sensitive area when we are studying it. Because it is in balance we are able to recognize our position in space. You are able to guide your movements as you walk, and you can tell whether it is dark or not, whether you could be going down or going up or going on a level ground. That awareness of space is because of the organs that are responsible for that. And maybe just to challenge you, which organs do you think are responsible for balance in your body? Would you mention one, two? The ears, the inner ear, okay? And now something else you're going to note, that the organs that are responsible for balance in your body are each two to balance each side. God could have placed the ear, placed one ear, or placed them in one side, but he placed them on either side. So this is meant to give some kind of symmetry, especially when it comes to balancing your body. Which other organ do you know is responsible for balance? Huh? The hands. Are you sure? I'll tell you what is the hands that is responsible for balance. Muscles. Your muscles are on either side of the body. And by the way, they detect movements. They can also judge the distance or the depth of the space you are in. So muscles also help in balancing. Now, with the exclusion of taste and smell, the sense of the skin is also responsible for awareness of space. It can detect differences in pressure. The skin can detect pressure. And therefore, by so doing, it can help you to understand or to be aware of your space. And the skin is everywhere in the body for that purpose. Now, the other organ that is responsible for that will also help you in balance is sight. And if you want to know sight can help you in balance, you just need to wake up, you stand up, and then just stand up, so that we can do this. Ensure you have a partner, 2 by 2. We are going to do a quick one. So one of you is going to stretch their hand like this. And whoever is stretching the hands is going to close their eyes. So once you close your eyes, your partner, it's supposed to move you down suddenly as your eyes are closed. And your partner is going to report whether you are going to lose balance or not. Okay? And we can try that, either of us. Okay? Ensure your eyes are closed. Put your hands in front of you, and somebody tries to move them down suddenly. So what did you note? You can try to do that. You can try to do that when you are opening your eyes. See whether there's going to be a difference. Exactly. When you're done, we can sit down. So I want somebody to report faithfully whether there was a difference. Was there a difference? Yes. Your eyes also help in what we call balance. And therefore, with the exception of taste and smell, the rest of the senses can also be used for balance. Okay? Very, very important. The other structures that are used to help you in balance is joints. Your joints. Your joints help you to understand where you are in the space. Okay? They're that important. So when you have rheumatoid arthritis or osteoarthritis and you have stiffness of the joints, you are likely to continue to lose what we call that awareness of space. Okay? And therefore, you may not be able to stimulate distinct sections of the brain responsible for balance. Especially, there's an area here behind your head that is called the cerebellum. That one helps to interpret information in terms of where you are in space. And we know some birds also use their skin and their wings as they flap them they have what we call, they can detect the differences in pressure in the air, okay? So as to tell which path of flight will be easier for them, because they choose the path, the flight path of least resistance. And they are going to use their joints and the skin as they interact with the environment up there, okay? So God has designed such structures to help us to adapt to an environment that is changing. So when we go to the sense of hearing, sense of sight, vision, it's important as well. Because did you know that the body has no access to light apart from through your eyes? All the light that your body has goes through the eyes. And then the brain receives it and then disseminates it or spreads it into the rest of the organs. And Ecclesiastes 12 verse 7 says, light is sweet. And maybe you may not get the difference properly until it is night. Okay? And you're supposed to do certain functions. And you can't see until you turn on the torch. Light is sweet. And the Bible tells us that it is also sweet to behold the sun. Light is important to the body. And equally important is the sound that I was talking about, the sense of hearing. Now, it has been discovered or confirmed that the amount of light that you have in your body determines also your gene expression and cell division and stimulation within the nerves. It also helps the immune system. Our DNA is sensitive to light. Light is so important that it provides part of the energy needed for cell division. Equally important is sound. Sound is important because it can change the way your genes express themselves. And experiments have been done even with mice. Some have been exposed to very cool and good music, and it has been noted at the end of the experiment that they are forming new neural connections inside the brain out of that cool music. Orderly connections, as opposed to bad music, heavy rock music, which causes disorderly connections. And therefore, sound, light, very important. These are sources of energy. The same way we say magnetism that God has provided in very good amounts from the earth, they also help us in what we call nerve stimulation. And therefore, God has ensured that we have energy below. That is magnetism provided by the Earth's core. And then we have energy above provided by the sun. And we have energy between the above and below, the energy of organized sound. And we can also create that organized sound through good music and other nice noises that we appreciate from the creatures God created. Okay? So they help to develop our brain. Wonderful. Okay? Energy from below, energy from, this is in form of magnetism. And therefore, it's important to do what we call grounding. That is walking with your bare feet, especially when it is wet. It helps you to connect to the earth because the earth has negative charges that enable you to detoxify your body from positive charges that dull or weaken your nerves. A very important concept. Maybe that's the reason God could have created the world round, so that when electric charges from lightning hit the Earth's surface, they can be directed to a central point. And everybody, regardless of where you are on the Earth's surface, you can benefit from an electric charge that was discharged from US. It can come straight to where you are. That could be the reason why maybe God could have designed the earth as a sphere, okay? So that all of us can benefit from those charges, as long as we do what we call grounding or walking barefoot on naked surface, not on the floor, naked surface. That's the only way you can connect to the earth. And please bear in mind that the most highly charged element in your body that makes your blood red, it's so near the surface of the skin. Did you know that? Your blood is everywhere in your skin. And iron connects to the other iron in the earth's core. That's how important that is. So that if you insulate your feet with rubber, you cannot benefit from those negative charges from the earth's surface. Okay? It has to be on bare ground, and if possible, when the ground is wet, because it's highly conductive in that condition. Iron is also a good conductor. So that is the so sight. To do with the sight, light is very important. Then the sense of hearing. This is the other avenue we get information to the brain. And would you be, or have you ever imagined why God would have placed all these senses close to the head? So that we have two eyes, they are placed in the head, the mouth is placed in the head, we have the nostrils close to the head, the ears close to the head, we have this skin. And this skin is special because the only part of your skin that moves is the facial skin. And this skin is the most populated with hair. Do you know the reason why? The skin covering the brain is covered with a lot of hair. Because that organ is important. Now, wherever you have the hair on your skin, there are many pores and bigger ones to help eliminate waste. The other property that we find close to hair areas is presence of lymph nodes. And this is also a drainage channel to get waste out of the body. The most densely populated area of the body with lymph nodes, it's your neck area, close to the brain, to ensure that the brain will not get exhausted out of accumulation of waste. God has very intelligent waste management mechanisms for us. And this is amazing. Okay? If you are under any form of strenuous pressure, what have you noticed about your body? Which are the first areas to sweat? Yes? Your face and hair. Okay? Just to ensure that the brain will properly be cooled and waste will quickly be eliminated. We also know that hair enables heavy metals to come out through it. Your hair traps the material making the hair has high affinity to heavy metals. And therefore, it can easily do what? Trap them and then grow to bring them out of your body. And God has designed that the brain will not be deficient in those elimination mechanisms. He protects the brain. I wonder why you should not be very careful about that organ. Okay? Very important. Now, all these senses, including the sense of smell, communicate to the brain through a tract of what we call ascending information and descending information all the time. And they all come to feed your hemispheres, or what we call your mind. Okay? So information has to come from the ends of the body and climb up to where your mind is. And then the brain can send a feedback depending on the kind of stimulus that sense organ sent to the brain, so that you can perform an action that is going to save you. So these senses are meant to save you, because the only way the brain can coordinate and understand what is happening in the environment is by sending this information. If the sensory information is harmful, this would mean maybe you touched or you stepped on a sharp object, and you could have found how fast you move your leg away. Imagine that information has reached the brain, and the brain has sent back some other information to tell the muscle that is stepping on that sharp object to move away. But how fast it happens will depend on how healthy your nerves are, because some people do not respond to harmful stimuli. Okay? For example, diabetes. People who have complications of diabetes and they have a problem with circulation of blood towards the extremities, and therefore the nerves are not properly supplied, either because they have been inflamed by the sugar itself, or because the blood that supplies those nerves does not reach there because the vessels are clogged. So you don't sense. Therefore, somebody is sitting by the fireside, and the family is there, and people are asking, I smell somebody roasting meat, okay? And including this person who has put their leg in the fire, they're also asking, where are people roasting meat? Only to realize somebody is insensitive to the sense of pain. Now, that is a survival mechanism, because without pain, you cannot learn, okay? And somewhere else it says, you see, the pain is the most powerful emotion, such that if somebody were hungry and they were walking about exhausted, walking slowly, exhausted, and all of a sudden they see a lion, and they remember that there will be no discussion between a lion and myself. So what they can do is to numb or mask all the hunger signals and do what? Take off. Why? The imagination of infliction of pain gives them what we call emotional energy, so that they are able to flee from danger. So the amazing thing is that this information is collected timely, and the brain responds timely to get you out of the danger. Okay? But now the problem comes when the stimulation is something that is friendly, that is fondly. Now you tend to remain in that position, okay? So that you can continue feeling what? The pleasure. But if the pleasure will eventually lead to pain, then you have to use your mind. Because you've never experienced itchiness. How is itchiness? It's nice when it's starting, eh? But as you continue to scratch the skin surface, at the point where you injure the skin surface, what happens? Pain sets in, okay? So, before you damage your skin, at the time you're scratching because of that itchiness, you can reason out. You can reason out with your mind and stop scratching your skin, okay? And maybe apply something else like cayenne, okay? In order to numb the itchiness, okay? At that point, your reason will be working or will be ruling over your pleasure center. The pleasure center. Let's continue. Now, let's read, if you can get this citation, MS 158, 1944. See whether you can get it. Okay. Yeah, please read it for me.
It says manuscript 158, 1904, paragraph 14.
Yes.
Says, one great deception that is coming in is what is known as hypnotism.
Hypnotism, yes.
Institutions are being established for the purpose of teaching how to control the minds of men and women. But the mind that has been given up to the control of another mind can never again be as it was before. It has been surrendered. I want you to remember this, for you may be invited to obtain relief from sickness by giving up your mind to be controlled by someone else's mind.
Now, stop there. What I'm worried about in this topic is mind control. Because the only thing we can enjoy or wish to have is to have the mind of God in us, but not to surrender our mind to another, especially by this method we are told is called hypnotism. We will understand what is hypnotism in the ensuing slides. Surrendering our mind to another, so that now you are under the control of another. And this is the hot topic in the world today. Because if you can make people comply and respond to mandates, then they think that's a good way of controlling people. But inspiration warns us against surrendering our minds to another. The first surrender of the mind ever to be seen was when Eve surrendered her mind to the insinuation of the devil. That was the first instance of an individual surrendering her mind to another creature. Now, God says he is not pleased. And I think you'd read the last, as you come to the end of that paragraph, I wanted you to read the last part.
It says, but neither he who takes the control of another's mind, nor he who surrenders his mind to the control of another can ever be in the condition he was before this experience.
Exactly.
This is the work that God has never appointed any human being to do for another.
Exactly. Now we are told that God will not be pleased with that. He has not appointed that work. And he does not wish that any proper education system is going to impose one person's individuality into another. God does not intend that. Now, how do you overcome hypnotism? Because by hypnotism, you have to sell an idea, make it look so good, okay, and then sensitize or activate the baser passions so that you accept that idea, not out of reason, but because of the stimulation of your pleasure areas. You want to achieve a certain gauge of pleasure from it. And therefore, hypnotism is not actually based on truth or facts. Okay? It's exaggerated. Now, let's see an example of hypnotism in the Bible. Now, in the book CTR 190, paragraph 5, we are told. Would you read?
Satan tempted the first Adam in Eden,
Uh-huh.
son with the enemy,
Uh-huh.
and thus him the advantage.
Yes.
Exercise his power of hypnotism over Adam and Eve.
Yes.
He strove to exercise over Christ.
Exactly. But after?
But what was quoted, Satan knew that he had no chance of triumph.
Wonderful. Now we are told that the devil used hypnotism to deceive Eve and Adam. And if you want to know the aspects of hypnotism, please read for me Genesis 3, verse 6. What was the devil stimulating or appealing to in Eve? In this power, yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
the tree was good for food,
Yes.
that it was pleasant to the eye,
Uh-huh.
and it desires to make one wise.
Mm-hmm.
She took of the fruit thereof,
Mm-hmm.
and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat.
Wow. So that is hypnotism. Now let me ask you, how many senses of Eve are employed in that verse or in that temptation? How many senses did you notice? There's a sense of she saw, okay? So the eyes were hypnotized, right? What other sense was stimulated? Touch, okay? Wonderful. The sense of touch, the skin. Which other sense? What she had, okay? And it started by seeing a very wonderful creature, one that was the most beautiful, speaking. And then she was hypnotized, okay? So there were certain cravings she wanted to satisfy. And that is where hypnotism comes about. You want to attain a level of pleasure above your reason, because facts had been laid down. On the day you shall not eat of that tree. But now, the way the devil presented the idea was exaggerated, and it was promising pleasure and a new discovery, which this woman craved to have. So we can see the baser passions were also stimulated. Then the other sense is the woman had wandered towards that tree. There's something that captured her interest that made the muscles to move towards where the tree is. And she did not lose the coordinates of that tree, meaning her balance was also stimulated to shape her movement towards where the tree was. Did you know that you could have the eyes and you could have your skin, but if you do not have the sense of balance, you cannot make your way home? Yes, that is possible. By the way, if you damaged your inner ear, even if you had your limbs intact, the rest of the body intact, you can only use a wheelchair if you damaged your inner ear. Did you know that? That's how important the balance is. So this woman used all her senses to proceed towards the tree of knowledge of evil and good. And then she heard a voice and she was captivated. She had an exaggerated experience. And this is how the mind works. The mind can imagine. And by the way, the mind is closed inside your head. And one interesting thing about the mind is that it does not know when you are imagining or when you are actually with a real experience. Did you know that? I'll give you an example. You can think of losing somebody you love and they have not died and you will cry. True or false? But you can also cry when actually the body is there. So the mind does not have an idea of whatever you're thinking about or your experience is real or imagined. And that is how faith works in us. If that imagination was converted to faith, Hebrews 11 verse 6 says what? It is, what is faith? What is faith? Hoped for. They are not there, isn't it? So if the baser passions in your mind could have been converted to faith, then we would conceptualize the image of God and the beauty of heaven. And the mind will not know whether it's in heaven or it's imagining heaven. Amazing, yeah? Now, the devil had tried the same hypnotism with the Son of God. But this is how to counter hypnotism. It is by using the word of Scripture. Okay? And Satan is going to use this method, but we can only overcome by quoting the Scripture. And Christ did, and he overcame. Next.
Just hypnotism.
Mm.
If you read the word of inspiration well, you'll understand that when Satan came to speak to Eve,
Yes.
he didn't use any other language. The sound, the voice was melodious and it was slow and enticing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the same thing you tried to use on Christ, actually. You read how, in movies they normally depict him as a serpent coming, but that is not the way he appeared.
Mm-hmm.
Because he wanted to reason with Christ so that he could easily entice him.
Yeah. And we'll look at these methods that the devil has employed today in controlling the mind. Now, education page 288, paragraph 1. Yeah, read.
The discipline of a human being who has reached the years of intelligence should differ from the training of a dumb animal. The beast is taught only submission to its master. For the beast, the master is mind, judgment, and will. This method, sometimes employed in the training of children, makes them little more than automatons. Mind, will, conscience are under the control of another. It is not God's purpose that any mind should be thus dominated.
This is not the kind of dominion God gave us. Okay? God brought all the living things under us. We may dominate them. But God does not desire that another human being will dominate another. And that is why Genesis 1:27 says, both man and woman were created in the image of God. No one was supposed to dominate the other. Because God does not intend anybody's individuality to be merged into another. We are distinct persons. And by the way, did you know that the brain is as unique as your fingerprints? No one's brain resembles another. That is how amazing and wonderful we are. That you can distinguish, if brains were to be opened, which brain belongs to who. They are distinctive marks. And there are few places in the body where we have those distinctive marks. The fingerprints, the brain is the other one. So God does not intend anybody to imitate another. We are, what can we say? We are independent and different, talented, and uniquely created. I don't know how many objects you can design that are different from one another. If I told you to make 10 objects that are different, you could have a very hard time. But imagine creating billions and billions of people, that is from many generations to today, that are distinct, whose brains are distinct from one another. And the brain does not feel pain. Did you know? If you scratch the brain, you can't feel pain. But it has sensory. It has pain sensation. It transmits pain sensations to the rest of the body. Okay? It can exaggerate your pain depending on the factors involved, but itself it cannot feel pain. Okay? But you can touch a part of your brain and your foot kicks. And you touch another part and you bite someone. Okay? But it can't feel pain. That's how amazing it is. Okay, so next. Now let's go to the methods of mind control. These ones have been employed by the devil to control the minds of people. And this is where we would like to lay our emphasis on. Now, the first method of mind control is what we call delusion. Delusion. And the first delusion. Now, what's the meaning of delusion? In science, we simply define delusion as, yeah, it's a deception. Okay? But we say it's a very strong belief in something contrary to available facts or contrary to evidence. Now, the first delusion that was contrary to evidence is the first temptation of our first parents. They were put into a delusion by the devil. So somebody imagines, and you are lifted to a level higher than that of reason, and then you imagine achieving or graduating to a level that's higher than the one you are in, and that's a delusion. And delusions will also be used in the last days. If you read 2 Thessalonians 2:10, what does it say? 10 and 11?
2 Thessalonians.
Yeah, chapter 2, 10 and 11.
Chapter
Start
2,
with 10.
verse 10 to 11 says,
Yes.
and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth,
Yes.
that they might be saved. And for this cause, God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie.
So the mainstay of deception is that delusion. So that the devil uses wonders and anything else that is going to surprise you so that you accept an ideology he has in order to deceive us. Those are delusions. And I don't know whether you know where else we have delusions. We also have delusions in medicine and the science of treating people. Okay? We have delusions. And one of them, you can read for us in 5T 194, paragraph 3. 5T 194, paragraph 3.
It says, The physician should know.
Paragraph,
Isn't it paragraph 3?
that is 5T, yeah?
It's paragraph 4.
Okay. I wanted 193. 5T 193, paragraph 4. Sorry.
193 or 443?
193. This is 443, yeah?
Yeah.
I need 193,
5T.
paragraph 4.
Mhm. 193 paragraph 4. I read.
Yes. 190? It was 194. Thank you.
194 paragraph 3.
Okay. Yeah.
Senior.
Uh-huh.
Okay, it's there. It says,
Uh-huh.
it is not safe to trust to physicians who have not the fear of God before them.
Uh-huh.
Without the influence of divine grace, the hearts of men are deceitful above all things
Uh-huh.
and desperately wicked.
Yes.
Self-aggrandizement is their aim. Under the cover of the medical profession, what iniquities have been concealed, what delusions supported. The physician may claim to possess great wisdom and marvelous skill when his character is abandoned and his practice contrary to the laws of life. The Lord.
Yeah, you can stop there.
Okay.
Now, we are told it's not safe, meaning, what is it? It's not safe. Safe here is used in terms of risks involved. It is insecure. There's a risk of harm or maybe loss, sometimes a terminal danger, entrusting to physicians who have not the fear of Lord in them. Now, we are told, and this is something strange, in the cover or under the cover of the medical profession, what iniquities have been
concealed.
Now, did you ever imagine there could be iniquities in the medical profession?
Yes.
Examples?
Like which, in terms of medical profession, are we talking about the world medical profession or what?
Give me examples of spiritual iniquities.
One of them is mind control.
An iniquity. An example of an evil. Like immorality, murder. Okay?
Yes.
An example? Theft. What else? Now, did you ever imagine there could be immorality concealed under the cover of the medical profession? Are there? You have an idea? Since I was, when I came to the church, the place I least expected there could be untruths was the medical profession. So I knew in politics we have iniquities, and in church. But I always believed the medical profession is clean. But this is not the case. It has supported murder, supported immorality. By the way, there are medical interventions done to advance immorality. Okay? Including the use of family planning, the use of contraceptives in general, okay? Regulations for or against abortion, such. But we also have murder. In fact, a very good example, maybe there was a case in Alabama in 1932. If you Google, you can go to what we call the Tuskegee. There's a university in Alabama called Tuskegee University. Now, in 1932, they took black Americans and planted in them a fungotoxin. This was an experimentation on the disease syphilis in these black males in Alabama. And then, because they wanted to know the progress of a disease without intervention, they confined these people and allow the disease to naturally progress in them. And they died. Some of them have been allowed to go back to their wives with an intention of confirming whether it can spread, but that was unethical. It resulted to death. And for a period of 40 years, from 1932 to 1972, these people were allowed to die without intervention from that fungotoxin. It was later discovered to be a fungotoxin, okay? And that was unethical. Hitler himself in Germany was using pharmaceutical companies to experiment toxic drugs on people in concentration camps. Also unethical, and people died. And by the way, the origin of psychiatry has to do with what happened in World War II, because certain people were labeled as undesirables. And then there was a propaganda that was going on to indoctrinate people that certain people have a psychological disorder and they would not wish to live, yet they cannot express it. And therefore, they have to be assisted to die. So we have the origin of what we call mass killing or euthanasia. And Jews were victims to that. They died. And this was done by pharmaceutical companies. One of them called IG Farben. And because of that scandal, it had to change its name to Bayer. Now, Bayer has been integrated with Monsanto, and now they can stockpile drugs and toxic substances under the cover of farming and also pharmacy. And that is murder. Now, did you ever think there could be a delusion in the medical profession? And that is what the spirit of prophecy tells us. And I said a delusion is a strong belief in something contrary to evidence. Did you ever imagine? Did you know that there are some people who are under treatment for diseases that do not exist, yet they are taking drugs regularly and faithfully for diseases that do not exist? For diseases that, had you had an encounter with somebody to address your mind, you could heal instantly. We had an example of a person who had palsy, paralysis, and when he was brought to Jesus, under that state of depression, Jesus told him, "Brother, cheer up." And maybe Jesus could have recognized that this paralysis could have come as a result of great depression, remorse, and guilt. And he told him to cheer up. And I know we will have more time to discuss other methods of mind control that the devil is using. May God bless us. We will pray. Our Father in heaven, we come before you once again for giving us this opportunity. We thank you because you love us. You have allowed us to be here safe. We ask you to bless our speakers, even the one who is coming next, and so that you may continue to prepare us for your second coming. We pray this believing and trusting in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.